لا تجعل مع الله إلها آخر فتقعد مذموما مخذولا وقضى ربك ألا تعبدوا إلا إياه وبالوالدين إحسانا إما يبلغن عندك الكبر أحدهما أو كلاهما فلا تقل لهما أف ولا تنهرهما وقل لهما قولا كريما واخفض لهما جناح الذل من الرحمة وقل رب ارحمهما كما ربياني صغيرا ربكم أعلم بما في نفوسكم إن تكونوا صالحين فإنه كان للأوابين غفورا وآت ذا القربى حقه والمسكين وابن السبيل ولا تبذر تبذيرا إن المبذرين كانوا إخوان الشياطين وكان الشياطين لربه كفورا صدق الله العلي العظيم.
We'll now welcome Nabila Vasi to recite the English. Salawat.
Do not set up any other deity side by side with God, lest thou find thyself disgraced and forsaken. For thy sustainer has ordained that ye shall worship none other but him. And do good unto thy parents. Should one of them or both attain to old age in thy care, never say to them, ugh, to them or scold them, but always speak unto them with reverent speech, and spread over them humbly the wings of thy tenderness, and say, O my sustainer, bestow thy grace upon them, even as they cherished and reared me when I was a child. Your sustainer is fully aware of what is in your heart, and if you are righteous, he will forgive you for those errors. For behold, he is much forgiving to those who turn unto him again and again. And give his due to the near of kin, as well as to the needy and to the wayfarer. But do not squander thy substance senselessly. Behold, the squanderers are indeed of the ilk of the Satans, inasmuch as Satan has indeed proved most ungrateful to sustainer.
Thank you very much. Today we're very privileged to be joined by Brother Sheikh Yusuf Al-Salhi. Can we welcome him with a loud salawat? Brother Yusuf Al-Salhi is a British hawza student who has studied in Qum since 2014. He specialises in Fiqh, Usul al-Fiqh, Hadith, Islamic philosophy, Polemics, and Qur'anic sciences. He has been teaching nearly all of these subjects for the last 3 years in both Qum and London, in English and in Arabic. Again, can we welcome him with a loud salawat?
Assalamu alaikum. Today, inshallah, I want to speak about Imam ZAINUL ABIDEEN alayhi salam, specifically, because I believe that there hasn't been coverage of Imam ZAINUL ABIDEEN alayhi salam's life. So inshallah today we're going to be speaking about it. I'd like to give an introduction before I start, and it's a historical introduction. Let's say the philosophy or the methodology of tackling historical reports. So the way I do it is I'd say that historical reports or narrations are split into two groups. Okay? We have the first group that you're certain of. The first group is the group that you're certain of. You know for a matter of fact that this has happened. That's the first group. The second group is the group that you're not really certain of. So you got historical reports, but they're not really that authentic, or they might be authentic, but maybe not authentic enough to get to certainty. So you have two groups over here. It's important when we establish our understanding of history, we have to stick to the first group to build the overall understanding. The second group, which is the one that you're not really certain of, you don't really know, so you can't make that the basis of your understanding. Stick to what you know first, for sure, and then go to the next stage. So another way of paraphrasing what I just said, sticking to a basic understanding is better than sticking to an inclusive understanding that isn't so accurate. Start with the basics. You don't have to know everything. If there's not enough historical reports on a specific person, you don't have to claim that you know so much about him. You can say, I know this amount, I know that amount. But just stick to the basics, because we are going to bring a couple of examples right now where, for example, Imam Ali alayhi salam, clearly there's a lot of historical reports on him. But Imam ZAINUL alayhi salam, you don't find that abundance. So what we do know about Imam Ali alayhi salam will be much more than we do know about Imam ZAINUL. We don't have to claim to know we don't have to claim that they're equal in that sense. Okay, I want to give an example where things go wrong. If I, as an experiment, if I give you a glass of water over here and you start developing, let's say, some sort of emotion towards it, all right, you begin to like the glass, or you begin to hate it. What's going to happen is this: if you spend enough time thinking about it, you're going to be able to describe the glass in so many different ways. You're going to be able to describe it by saying that it's the most beautiful thing I've seen, and if you don't like it, you're going to say it's the worst thing I've seen. So our intellect has the ability to dig deep into anything, and that's why, like, we find that same thing happening with personalities. Now, even amongst our community, there are certain people, if you like them so much, it's like whenever anything says anything about them, it doesn't work, it doesn't resonate with you. And I think it's really important to look at historical events and historical personalities the same way. If you like a specific person, you can't be lying about him, even if you do like him. You have to stick to what you know. And that's the most important thing, because if you stick to what you know, you're not really going to fall into a lot of, like, any problems. But if you don't stick to what you know, you're going to end up exaggerating, you're going to end up speaking bad about the person, depending on the feeling that you have towards that person. So that same example that I just gave, a glass of water, there's a constructive way. Like, when you want to analyze that glass of water, there's a constructive way to look at it, and there's a deconstructive way. The deconstructive way is to look at it and start describing it based on your emotions, whether you hate him or you like him. That's a deconstructive way, because your emotions are just words, right? They're not really describing a reality. They're not describing what the thing is. It's just a glass of water. It's nothing got to do with your feelings. It is what it is. So if you have emotions and you want to describe that thing based on your emotions, that's a deconstructive way of narrating history. The constructive way is to link that specific thing to the time zone and the geopolitical circumstances that it's going through. So let's say this glass of water, we link it to the temperature of the room. Temperature of the room is a fact. You're not linking it to emotions no more. You're linking it to facts. And that's the same thing that, like, we'll do the same thing when it comes to understanding the Imams. So when we look at the Imam, we look at the Imam alayhi salam, and we say that he lived in a political environment. He lived under the leadership of this person. He lived with his siblings, or he lived with his wives. We have to link it to facts. When we link it to facts, it becomes a constructive way of understanding the Imam. It's deconstructive when it's emotional based, and it's constructive when it's what? Factual based. Is that clear? All right. Sallallahu ala Muhammad wa ala Muhammad. Allahumma salli ala Muhammad. There's two major opinions amongst Shia scholars when it comes to viewing the Imams. We have one prominent opinion. It's the opinion of Al-Imma alayhum salam. Every single individual and every single Imam would act the same way as the other Imam if he was in his position. This is the first opinion, and it's the most prominent opinion amongst Shia scholars right now. That Imam al-Hasan alayhi salam, he signed a treaty with Muawiyah. If he was to live in Imam al-Husayn's times, he would rebel the same way Imam al-Husayn did. And if Imam al-Husayn was to be in his shoes, he would do the same thing as well. That's the most prominent opinion that we have right now. So basically every Imam is only the Imam, and he's different than the other Imam historically speaking because of the different environment. There's certain characteristics that we see prominent and we see to be very clear in, for example, Imam Ali's time, because of the environment that he had to live in. He had to be involved politically. He had to be involved in many ways. And what about Imam al-Husayn alayhi salam? Imam al-Husayn alayhi salam, he had to show that side of justness, and like, we have to go to the next level. We have to rebel because the corruption has reached the stage where you cannot stay silent. And if any Imam was to replace any Imam's life, he would act the same. That's the first opinion. And you can see that opinion in Shaheed al-Sadr, Muhammad Baqir al-Sadr, who died in 1980. You can see that in his works. That's like a very, he has a book. It's called Al-A'imma Wahdat Adwar, or yeah, I forgot the name of the book, but he has a book on this, like just on this topic. The other opinion says that every Imam is different. So Imam Ali alayhi salam, all of them are infallible, yeah? We're not speaking about infallibility here. We're speaking about the characteristics of that person. So both opinions believe that they're infallible. That needs to be clear. The second opinion is saying that every Imam is different. So if Imam Hassan alayhi salam was living in Imam al-Husayn's time, he would act differently. He wouldn't act the same. And if Imam al-Husayn was to live in Imam Ali's time, he would act differently. He wouldn't act the same. Now, that opinion isn't really like a big opinion amongst Shia scholars nowadays, but it's an opinion that you do find in a lot of scholars' works. Now, speaking about Imam al-Sajjad alayhi salam, I just want to give a biography about who he is, who his mom is, who's his dad. His mom is Shahrabanu, or Shah Zanan. Shahrabanu means the leader of ladies, and Shah Zanan, the lady of the land. Oh, sorry, Shah Zanan. Zanan means woman, so yeah, sorry, I think, the translation is wrong. Shahrabanu is the lady of the land, and Shah Zanan, the leader of ladies. That's the way it should be. She was the daughter of a Sassanid princess who is she is a Sassanid princess, who is the daughter of the last Sassanid emperor of Persia. Okay? His father, Imam al-Husayn alayhi salam, we don't have to mention anything about him. He has many nicknames. Imam al-Sajjad alayhi salam, Dhu Thafanat. Thafanat is basically when you pray on the turba, you start to get this thing on your forehead. Yeah, so this thing on the forehead is called the Thafanat. So because he used to pray a lot, he was known for that. He had he had a black mark on his head, on his forehead. The other nickname for Imam alayhi salam is ZAINUL ABIDEEN. ZAINUL ABIDEEN means that he prayed a lot. Imam al-Sajjad had many siblings. Ali al-Akbar, Ali al-Asghar, all of these are his siblings. And I think an idea or a belief that many Shias have, it's not a right belief, but they think that the Imam has to be the eldest son. No, he doesn't. He doesn't have to be the eldest son. So Imam Sajjad alayhi salam, Ali al-Akbar was older than him. So he does, like, the Imam doesn't have to be the oldest son. So even Imam Sadiq alayhi salam, Imam al-Kadhim became the Imam, but Imam al-Kadhim isn't the oldest son. Abdullah al-Aftah was older than him. So being the next Imam does not mean that you have to be the eldest son. The day of the martyrdom where he was poisoned by Abdul Malik ibn Marwan was in 95 Al-Hijrah. That's just a quick biography of Imam Sajjad alayhi salam. One of the things that Imam Sajjad alayhi salam was known for is Risalat al-Huquq, a treatise of rights, where he mentions a lot of different rights to the parts of the body or to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala and the people that you live with. So he mentions the rights of Allah, he starts with the rights of Allah, and then the rights of your five senses, and then the rights of your hands, your rights of your legs, the rights of your stomach, and then he goes on to mention 51 different entities that have rights. So it's a very detailed treatise you can read. It's translated, so I think it's important to come across them. Risalat al-Huquq is mentioned and narrated in three main sources. We see in Shaykh al-Saduq. Shaykh al-Saduq died 381 Hijrah, approximately 1050 years ago. He mentions it in Al-Khisal, his book Al-Khisal, Al-Amali, and Man La Yahdhuruhu Al-Faqih. Another famous, you can say, supplications that are attributed to the Imam alayhi salam are the 15 supplications. They call them the whispered prayers. That's the translation that I saw. But in Arabic we call it al-munajat al-15, al-munajah. Al-munajah meaning the supplication or the whispered prayers. Like that's the translation that I saw. I'm not really sure of it. So that's just a brief about Imam Sajjad alayhi salam. I can go on, but I'd prefer to take questions if you guys don't mind. Sallallahu ala Muhammad wa ali Muhammad. Allahumma salli ala Muhammad wa ali Muhammad.
Brothers and sisters, we have some time for some question and answers. Let me know if you have any questions.
Thank you, Sheikh. Can you briefly tell us where did Imam Sajjad alayhi salam go from Karbala? I know he went to Medina, but was there in any other place or only in Medina?
To be honest, I don't recall exactly where he went, so it's not in my mind right now. I apologize.
His grave is in Medina, right?
Yeah. His grave is in Al-Baqi'.
Al-Baqi'.
In Baqi', yeah. So he returned to Medina, yeah.
Do we have any more questions from either side? All right, well, and there. Thank you so much. Can we have another loud salawat, please?
Allahumma salli ala Muhammad.
Ziyarat. Assalamu alayka ya Sayyidi ya Mawla ya Rasulullah. Assalamu alayka ya Sayyidi ya Mawla ya Nabiyullah. Assalamu alayka ya Sayyidi ya Mawla ya Muhammad ibn Abdullah wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh. السلام عليك وعلى ابن عمك أمير المؤمنين علي بن أبي طالب وسي رسول رب العالمين. السلام عليك وعلى بسأتك الصديقة الطاهرة فاطمة الزهراء سيد نساء العالمين. السلام عليك وعلى زوجتك الوفيقة خديجة الكبرى أم المؤمنين. السلام عليك وعلى ولديك الإمامين الحسن والحسين سيدي شباب أهل الجنة. السلام عليك وعلى أئمة المسلمين من ذريتك ولديك الحسين. علي السجاد ومحمد الباقر وجعفر الصادق والموسى القادم وعلي الرضا ومحمد الجواد وعلي الهادي والحسن العسكري والهجة بن الحسن المهدي. السلام عليك يا سيدي يا مولاي يا صاحب الزمان. أجل الله تعالى فرجك وسهل الله مخرجك وظهورك وجعلنا من أنصارك وأعوانك والمستشهدين بين يديك. السلام عليكم جميعا ورحمة الله وبركاته. صلوات.